Well. Here we are. Hello, everybody. Sansi's coming in, gonna hang out with us. I need some more coffee already. I'm sorry. I done.
It's not
I
even.
done.
It's not even funny.
It's funny to me. I'm bad about that. I'll bring a cup of coffee in here to have coffee with you guys, and by the time I go live, I've already drank that first cup of coffee. And then she gets mad because she has to go. She don't have to go get it. Let me clear this up. She could stay here and talk with y'all while I go get it, but she don't want to do that. She'd rather just go get it herself. And it gives her an opportunity to fuss at me a little bit because that's what y'all like to do. So we got Miss PJ in here, and I'm sure we got others that will be coming. Hey, we're going to have fun this evening. We got Miss Karen and her books. We're going to talk about her books tonight. Yep, we are going to talk about her books. What are you doing? Oh, you filled it as high as you could get it to make it last?
Wait a minute.
Golly, that's full. What we need to do is just put a pot in here on the desk so we don't have to get up. Yes, we don't have to get up and go get it now.
No, he fixes his cup a half a cup. And the smallest cup he's got.
I got to drink a little bit before I can pick it up. All right, I tell you what, let's bring Miss Karen in. We've already talked to her for a minute. She's kind of sitting in the wings waiting to come in, and we're going to bring her in, and we're going to just get started. I was hoping more people would be in here, but that's all right. We'll get started. Sure will. Come on in here, Miss Karen. There you are.
I'm sitting in the green room.
I see. And have you got coffee or tea?
No, hot tea. I only drink hot tea. That's my Irish background. I only have the hot tea.
Hot tea for Miss Karen. Hot tea only.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what's your day been like today? What have you done today?
Pretty slow today.
You went shopping this week, right?
Not a lot happening. I finally got I've been working forever trying to get a secondary diabetic medicine, and it finally came through. Those pre-authorizations are awful. But I had to take it into my own hands and make it come through because I had to switch off of metformin and go on something else. So that came through, so I got to go pick that up. So
good deal.
That was the highlight.
Now, we were on this morning. We had the bird feeder on. Like you were on there.
Yeah.
You said you had to go shopping. Did you had to go?
Yeah.
Groceries.
You had to go. Yeah, I had to go to Wally World and get a few things, get some dog food. So yeah, I went there this morning. The weather was really nice. But like I said this morning, I said it's trash day. And for the last 3 weeks, every time it's trash day, we get this enormous wind coming through here. And I can't put the trash can out. Everybody's trash cans blow off somewhere. And so I'm like, please don't, because it was full. And so today the wind started up in the afternoon. I'm like, oh no, but it died down and finally was able to get it. But otherwise, the weather was really nice. It was a high of 80s. So it was pretty nice today. It keeps going up and down, up and down. We have a little cold front, and I'm on the Gulf side. We have a little cold front, and then it'll warm back up again and stuff.
That's better.
It was a gloomy day here today. It rained all
this morning. It's a beautiful day.
This
now.
afternoon is really pretty. Everything's wet, but anyhow, it was. So
I remember it raining in the bird thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it rained till well after lunch, probably about 2:00. It started letting up, and then now, this afternoon it's been really pretty. So I'm hoping tomorrow will be a better day. So I want to step back a little bit. You're talking about the garbage. And when we went to visit our son in Italy, they don't do garbage like we do. They have certain bins for certain things, and
one for plastics, one for paper, one for trash, one for foods.
Gotcha. Recycling.
Yeah, and then they have most people there have like a little worm farm, and they put all of their scraps in the worm farm, and it's a 3-tiered system, and they rotate it, and it was actually really cool. Um, but what made me think about what about Ireland? Are they like we are? Or are they more like Italy? You know,
Yeah, well, it's been many years since I've seen what they do with it, but before, times have changed. So like years ago, it was the same. You put your garbage out, but now I bet you they have a lot of recycling and things, and
and we kind of do recycling here, but it's kind of optional if you want to participate in it or not. Over in Italy, it wasn't optional. You had to participate. All right, Miss PJ says I'm blurry. I don't know. Sometimes the
I know. I saw that popped up, and then you put your glasses on, like that's gonna help.
No, I'm always blurry without my glasses.
Hi, Miss PJ. I can see the chat now.
All right, so the granddaughter fell out of the buggy. I'm looking at Miss PJ's comment there. Fell out of
my
the
goodness
car yesterday. Now she has a black
dear
inside of her. I'm gonna say a black eye.
Oh no!
Out of her face.
Oh goodness!
Okay. What is granddaughter's name, Miss PJ? We need to give a shout out to granddaughter. I need to know a name. Sure, she'll come.
Oh, and I was on Georgie and Mr. Coop and Mike's combined.
Yeah, I saw some of that
stream today. Yeah, I was watching some of that.
It's not
going
really
over a lot of legal stuff.
Yeah, that's not really my cup of tea. I've tried to
kind of
that Hales thing, and and it's like it's that kind of stuff just doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll put it on and I'll just leave it playing, in the background, so they get the watch time. So I'm in there, but I'm not really paying attention because it's just it's not my thing.
Maybe if you had to come from the start. But you're coming in from the end, and it's like,
I
don't know what they're talking about.
Just
Sophie or Sophia.
Sophia. All right, so
hi,
we're going to say
hello
to Sophia, and we hope you get better. And next time,
that's a pretty name.
Cart.
Very pretty name.
It is a pretty name, Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we hope she gets better, and we hope she don't ever fall out of the cart again.
It was so funny because I realized that when we said 6 o'clock, and I'm thinking, okay, 6 o'clock, you were an hour behind. And then I'm like, wonder why they're not on yet. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're an hour behind. So I'm like rushing dinner and rushing everything to get ready. And I'm like, well, oh shoot.
Yeah, I'm Central Time.
Yeah. Now I know. It didn't even cross my. I knew you're in Mississippi, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew that, and I went, oh my goodness, they're an hour behind.
Now, what I'm starting to do is I'm using the same format every time I go live, so I don't have to send a different link every time. So that link I gave you, it will work. It will work anytime we're on.
Okay.
Yeah. So anytime we're on,
that works.
Jumping in, just hit that link and you'll pop up over there, and I'll let you in. It's no big deal.
It's really, really a black eye.
So she got a good black eye.
Oh no. Poor little Sophia.
This is the time y'all need to teach her how to tell a big old lie, so she can go to school and tell them at school about the bully she beat up and how she had him down and just worked him over, but he got in one good lick and gave her a black eye, or maybe it was a bear. Tell everybody she fought a bear.
Oh, you should see the other guy.
Yeah, you should see the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're happy she's all right. We hate she has a black eye, but I'm sure she'll be fine. So Miss Sophia, milk it all you can. Tell them you need ice cream. Ice cream helps a black eye.
There you go. I'm waiting for my dog. I'm in the guest room and I'm waiting for my dog to come tapping on the door, but she hasn't done it yet.
Hey, Heroes, welcome in. So
Heroes, hi.
We
Hi,
were
heroes.
we were having fun. I don't know. Has it been a week, 2 weeks? I don't remember how long ago it was when we had you on. Probably about a week, huh?
Time's flying.
Was it a week or two? I'm not even. I don't even time. I don't even know time anymore.
But we had fun talking about books, and inside of that conversation came up the idea to write a children's book about divorce. Now we're
Yes,
fortunate. My parents never divorced. Her parents never divorced, and of course we've never been
that's
divorced.
nice.
So it's not a common thing in our family. So we don't have firsthand experience, but we know people that have. And I know you gear your books towards small children, and it's
Right.
very common for a small child to think somehow it's their fault.
Yes.
You know, they blame themselves, and I'm pretty sure you kind of geared your book towards that. So
A little bit.
a little bit,
You have to be really, really careful with little ones and what
yeah.
they understand. So I have to make it as simple as possible.
Okay.
So those feelings are incorporated in the story. And I don't know if it's backwards or what on here. It's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah,
But
it is a little backwards. What does the
yeah,
title say?
the title of it is When Flynn's Family Changed.
Okay.
And it's about a fox.
So when
And
you
his
set out to
parents go
write,
through a divorce.
when you set out to write the book, I'm sure you had a goal in mind. What's the overarching thing that you're trying to get across to these young children that might be going through that with this book?
In this particular, it's just talk about, he's an only fox. He doesn't have any siblings. And he is, living in the day with his mother and father. He does things with his mom, things with his father, and he starts to see things change a little bit. And he starts to see how mom and dad mixes with each other, and he knows something going on. And so then when dad goes out every day hunting for food and brings it back, and one day he takes him out with him, and he's saying, dad seems really sad. There's change, because little ones can sense that. And so this little fox is sensing something's not right. Did I do something wrong? What is going on here? And so finally they sit him down and they tell him they're going to be living in 2 different houses, and they'll both still be his parents, but he gets upset and he runs off, and he comes across a deer in the woods. And she said, oh, I come from a family where, my mom and dad don't live together either. And we go back and forth and we visit and we do things. And he said, well, sort of like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, they'll make a schedule. Probably you have to ask questions. You need to go home and ask some questions. So, and then he goes home. And they talk about making a schedule where he gets to see mom and dad, but it's going to be in 2 different houses. And it kind of goes from there, where he's understand that it's not his fault. They both love him very, very much, but that sometimes, adults, they kind of grow apart, and but they'll try to keep his life the same as much as possible. Yeah. And that the one thing he asked them is that, can you please not use outside voices when you're with me? And so it kind of ends pretty much after that. He gets used to it, and that his life has changed. That's why I titled it When Flynn's Family Changed.
Yeah.
So it's just, I had to keep it simple. Oh, Mr. Coop's in here. Hello.
Oh.
But yeah, I had to keep the book very, very simple. I don't like to go too heavy on certain subjects, because it just, they don't get it. But I can tell you a story, though, that my children were like 14, 11, and 3 when I got divorced.
Yeah.
And when my little girl, my youngest, was, I think, 1st grade or something, her and her friend, one of her best friends, whose parents were going through the same time I was, which was a coincidence, so they could relate to each other. And they were on the playground. And these kids came over and they were saying to her little friend, you know, your parents aren't together. Your parents are divorced, and just bullying her over that. And you wouldn't think in first grade they would, they hate each other. They don't even live together. And they just went on, and she started crying.
Really?
And my daughter, who's also about 5 or 6, said, yeah, but our family still loves each other. And guess what? I have 2 bedrooms. I have 2 beds. I have 2 sets of everything, and she went on about her double life.
Turned it around on them.
And I thought that was funny, but
Yeah.
that's what she said. And my youngest doesn't really remember my ex-husband and I together.
Right. Because
and I remarried.
Yeah.
And so she's very close to her stepdad, but my ex lives 5 minutes. And even though him and I didn't always get along, we always got along for those kids.
Right.
And what she had done was every Friday for the entire week, she was at one house and then she was at the other house. But I would always take her to school and pick her up. So I saw her every day. I'm sorry.
Well, we're trying to acknowledge everybody in the chat. I don't want to interrupt you. So
no,
Miss
you
Mac
go right ahead.
in, and Yankee Bell, and they're saying
Oh,
hello.
Yankee Bell, Paul.
Yeah. And so I want to make sure that we acknowledge everybody. I was gonna say, you mentioned that, people, not people, but the children, they kind of sense what's going on, and you don't know how their little minds work, but their little minds are very active. And it reminded me of my granddaughter. My granddaughter was about 4, maybe 3, and we were walking outside. Now they call me Popple, like Popple. That's how it just evolved, and that's what my grandkids call me, as Popple. But anyhow, we were walking down to, I don't know, see the chickens or check for eggs or something, and she tells me, she says, well, you're the only Popple I got. And what she meant by that is, on the other side, my daughter-in-law's father passed away when she was in high school. So she does not have a grandfather on the other side. And that's what she was saying. She said, you're the only Popple I got. And she's like 3 years old. So I figured, okay, she's old enough. She's starting to figure things out. And I asked my son about it. I said, has she ever come to y'all and, question why she doesn't have a Popple? She don't understand grandfather at that age. She just knew Popple. Right. Why she doesn't have a Popple. And he said, no, she's never asked anything. So it wasn't what I thought. I thought she was just kind of figuring. She did figure it out, but she didn't. I thought maybe she went to them and they explained that he had passed away or whatever, but it wasn't any of that. So you never know, those little minds are a lot smarter than what we think they are. And they do see and realize things that are going on. So now you have a background in psychology, though, right?
Yes, I have a degree in psychology, and like I said last time we spoke, I have a lot of classes, so they allowed me to have. Most people just have a minor, a major, and a minor. So my major was psychology, but my minor was thematic. They allowed me 3 minors, and it's in sociology, early childhood development, and counseling.
So you got the street cred for writing children's books.
Well, and I've worked with children all my life, especially the first through my 20s. I was a preschool teacher and then a assistant director and curriculum specialist within that age group.
Right.
So when I decided I wanted to write little kids books, it's because that's what I enjoyed the most. I love story time.
I wanted to bring that out. So if somebody's thinking about buying one of your books, you're not just some random person that decided to write a children's book. You actually have education and experience and all of that. So as far as the way I look at it, they're getting a quality, well-written book because of your background and your education. It's not just because there's people out there that would just decide one day, well, I think I'm going to write a book, and might write a book when they really don't know what they're doing. You know what you're doing. So
Well, like I said, I kind of know their minds, but I try to keep the books simple. But my main thing of writing the books is that there's either a moral or a little lesson or something like this book about, divorce, something that they can relate to, but it's kind of explained to them in a way. And a lot of times I will use animals because I love to pick different animals. And sometimes I will pick little people, but a lot of times I'll use animals in the books,
So
so.
it sounds to me like the turning point in this book is when the young fox ran into the deer and they got to kind of talk peer to peer instead
Right.
of adult to child. And they were both going through the same thing. You want to share a little bit of that with us, that point in the
And
book?
there's a picture of him and the deer.
Cool.
And again, and like I said, for those that just joined, it is a book about a little fox, and it's called When Flynn's Family Changed. And he lives with his mother and father. And he starts to notice that, but I call him Mama and Papa. Funny, I call him Mama and Papa in this.
Right.
And he starts to notice that, his parents aren't getting along, and, they're using outside voices, and he's not understanding what's going on. And they finally kind of sit him down and tell him, we're going to be living different houses, but we still love you and you're still going to see us. And he runs off because he's just not happy with that answer until he runs into a little deer whose parents are also divorced, but she has siblings. And she kind of says, well, we go back and forth, and we have a schedule. So she's encouraging him to go back home and ask questions.
Yeah.
If there's something you don't understand, you got to go back home and you got to ask questions. So when he does that, that's, when they kind of tell him, well, we're going to put you on a schedule. We'll try to make it fair where you see Mama and Papa, and here's where Papa's going to live. And, Mama was going to live in the same den, but Papa was going to live in a different den on the other side of the forest. And he begins to understand. And like I said, towards the end, he said there's only one. And to me, this was important to throw this in, that he says to them, I only have one thing that I want to say is, please, when we're together, no outside voices anymore.
Yeah.
With
no
me.
More yelling. No more yelling.
Because that's the biggest thing is it, even when I taught preschool and I would have a mom or dad, maybe dad came to pick up the child and it wasn't his day and he forgot. And then here comes mom, and then all chaos breaks loose in my classroom. And it'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Then we're not going to do this.
Right.
And there's just so many, it's hard. It's really hard when you have an issue with that ex and you don't realize they're listening to everything you say, everything. And
everything.
They're going to say, what did I do? Is it my fault? Did I cause this? Which this little fox does. Like when he runs off, he's like, what did I do? I must be at fault.
Right.
So it kind of touches on that. But like I said, it's very simple. It doesn't dive too deep in a whole bunch of things because I don't like to do my books like that because I still want it to be enjoyable for the kid to be listening to, But, and like I said, most of my, like this one, the day Philip made the right choice. Okay. Philip finds money. So he goes and he asks all the animals, I found all this money. What should I spend it on? What should I spend it on? Yeah. And each animal tells him, what they would spend it on, until he comes across his little friend, which is the only girl in the book. The rest are animals. And she's like, well, did you think about looking to see who might have lost it first? And, Philip's like, oh, I didn't think of that. And then it kind of tells you what he does when he realizes maybe I should go find out who lost the money. So there's like, I want them to go, this is a better choice. Right. This is a good choice, because we've gotten so far away from that kind of stuff that, and I want people to be reading their kids' books. I like physical books. I still do when I'm reading myself.
Yeah.
A lot of people are into the Kindle and all that, but I like physical books. I like to have my bookshelf and all my books. And I'd like for parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, whoever, to actually have a book with pictures to read to the kid,
I'm like you.
because I think we got away from that a little bit sometimes,
I
you
like
know?
a book. I don't read often. I'll read maybe 2 books a year. It's I don't read much, but sometimes I just I feel like reading a book, and
Yeah.
I'm an old country guy, so I go get the Louis L'Amour westerns. Just a little simple books like
My
that.
husband waits for the movie.
But
He's
sometimes,
like, yeah, is there a movie on this? He will wait for the movie.
well,
But I've always read.
Wednesday.
That's my relaxation.
I found that the books are usually way better than the movie.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind, and I read it years and years ago, is Gone with the Wind. If you read the book, it's much
Oh,
more
wow.
complex than the
Hi, Miss
movie.
Wednesday. I see Miss Wednesday on here.
Hey, Wednesday. Yeah, Gone with the Wind is a thick book and a lot
Oh,
more to
yeah.
it in the
Thick,
book
thick book.
than the movie was. And that's been years ago. I can't give you a specific because it was so long ago, but I'm
Right.
almost thinking that was her name Scarlett. I think she had more children in the book than she did in the movie.
I think I heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
was.
think I heard that.
It was big things. It wasn't just
Mhm.
little issues.
Yeah.
It was a lot of big differences in the book than the movie. Still had the same basic storyline, but it was a lot of differences there. Much better than the movie, and I think
Wow.
most of
It's a big, thick
them.
book, too.
All right, so if people go to Amazon, so all your books are on Amazon.
Right.
The best way to find them that I found was to type your name in.
Yes. And that's what I wanted to touch on because I
Okay.
wrote some notes just to say, because I think, like I said, Miss PJ, I think, had asked me this. I have about 30 children's books because I started gravitating more to wanting to do that. But I also have, I had to write this down to remind myself, journals. And here's an example of a journal. This one's on Queen Elizabeth.
I've got some
And
pictures of some of your stuff. I'm gonna let you finish your point, and then we're gonna start going through some slides here. You talk.
okay,
Go ahead.
well, this is Queen Elizabeth, and it's just a journal, right? But it's going to have quotes in it that she had said. This actually, a lot of people buy this. They seem to love this, and I did this right after she passed away. But I found that if you go on, and like I said, I have log books, I have crossword puzzles, I have an IEP planner, a meal planner, a notary log book. I mean, there's so many things. That's a genealogy. That's my genealogy.
Right,
And
so
in that,
how
there's
does the
places.
genealogy book get used?
The genealogy book, the log book, is whenever people are on Ancestry or whatever site that they're on, and they've done their DNA and they get matches, you want to keep up with those matches. And this book allows you to, fill in, okay, this person is 120 centimorgans, and the genealogy people will understand that, of DNA. And how close are they? In the back of the book, it has a cousin guide to see if somebody's your first cousin once removed, your third cousin once removed. So it's a logbook to keep up quickly with those matches.
I don't understand all that. That once removed and twice removed and third, and I don't even know how all that
It's
works.
easier than you think. It really is. It's easier than you think. It's just the removed is just the generation.
Yeah.
So if you and my mother were first cousins, you and I would be first cousins once removed because I'm down a generation.
We just call
Yeah.
ourselves all cousins. When the
Yeah.
little town
Yeah.
we're from, my mother's family was huge, and I had, her cousins. I actually call them uncle and aunt. That's a Southern thing, if they're 10 and they're older, you just call them uncle this or aunt that or whatever, But as I grew older and figured out who was what, I realized some of them was her first cousins, and then they had kids that were my cousins, and we all grew up in the same towns. We just called each other cousin.
Well, I have an extensive genealogy is a big hobby for me, and I have an extensive genealogy that I've been working on for many, many years. And this idea came up with because every time I would check and see, okay, did I get a new DNA match? And I thought, where do I write this down? I want to keep up with this, not just on the computer, but just kind of write it down. And that's where that book came from. But what did I wanted to tell you is when you were talking about looking me up, if you put in my name, Karen Honest, and you put in children's books, all my children's books will come up. If you put in Karen Honest genealogy, that book will come up. If you put in Karen Honest journals, all the journals will come up. So what you're looking for, if you put it next to after my name, it'll come up. Crossword puzzles, it'll come up.
Okay, so what if they just put in, now I'm going to try to say your name right. I'm glad you said it, so I heard it. So
Honest.
Karen Honest, just the name, will a little bit of everything come up? Or
it will come up with the most recent things that have sold.
Okay.
So you may miss some things. But you can also click, like if you click on a book and on the book, it'll say, do you want to follow the author? And you hit follow the author, it'll go to a page and it'll show more books there too.
All right. So everybody.
But I think that's the easiest, is just, what you're looking for. You just put right after my name,
You said something that made me think. You was talking about the genealogy. You wanted a way to write it down. Computers have come in and kind of taken over, and they're really convenient. But there's still a lot of people that want to write things down.
I'm one of them.
And the ability to do that is kind of going away. So that's kind of nice.
Right.
Yeah. Miss PJ said that she could use that family tree book.
I tell you, I do have the whole tree on the computer because I have traced it way, way back. I discovered that I was 60% Scottish, even though both parents are from Northern Ireland. When I traced my mother's mother, it went way back and through Scotland. And, it had us related to some of the kings and queens of Scotland, not of England, but of Scotland, which was fascinating. But this book right here, Notes from Grandma, I wrote some little journals, and there's some of them are notes from mom, notes from dad, some stepdad, stepmom. And what they are is to get people to sit down and talk and say, tell me about your life. And either you or the other person, either grandma or you, can record it in this little journal. And like I said, they're just journals with lines in it that you could just fill out, and but the cover is what it's for. So again, that's one of the journals.
I had an interesting gentleman that lived close to us when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, 10, 11 years old, he was probably 80. But very interesting. I used to go sit at his house and just let him tell me stories about his life. And I kept saying that I was going to take a tape recorder and record them. And I never did. And I regret that to this day.
Yeah.
Because all that's lost.
I wish I had more conversations with my grandparents, on their lives.
Right.
This is a composition book. So I have several of them, and they just all have different colors for school. Some of them are college rule, and some of them are wide rule. So they're just little composition books. There's several of those, and there's all kinds of covers. Sometimes they're cars, sometimes they're kittens, sometimes they're flowers. I mean, there's a bunch of them just on what people like. Right. And this one's butterflies. So that's composition books for school. And that's a field trip planner. Now, on the field trip planner, there's going to be designated things to put in there. Where are you going? What date was it? What did you see? What did you discuss with the kids? Different things are actually in there to have a conversation about the field trip, and planning it and where you're going and the feedback.
More towards the teacher, for the teacher to use?
Yeah, for the teacher, preschool or elementary. If she wants to kind of take the field trip and bring it back to, with a conversation. Then she has all that stuff to kind of try her best to write down if she can.
Right.
This one is the book club. This is inside about books you're reading. So if you belong in the next chapter, this is if somebody's in a book club or just has a bunch of friends that like to read and you want to keep up with your reading and you want to discuss it with each other, then you record it all in here.
All right. So we're going to run through these. I want everybody to see the wide variety of things you have. It's not just children's books.
And that one's self-explanatory. There's the workout logbook has in the pages different things you might be working out on. You might be lifting weights.
I wouldn't be making a lot of entries in that one. I just back in the
I try
day,
to think
maybe,
of things that
now.
people might, want to use. And I've sold a few of those. So those, people do like to record that.
Maybe Heroes could use that book. He probably works out every day.
Yeah.
There we go. You got crosswords. Now,
it's crosswords.
Did you make these yourself, or did you use a computer assist to make the?
I can use a computer assistant for things like that, where I put in a bunch of words and it will make the crossword for me.
Make it for you. Okay.
It'll make it up, and then I can upload it onto where I make Canva, where I'm making the book, and I make the cover and everything, and then so all the pages are set up for different crosswords, and they're large words. That's why I said for adults, because they're not little words; they're large words to for people who like crosswords and who want to improve their vocabulary and that kind of thing is what that's for.
So, do you try to throw in on each one? Throw in a couple of unusual words or uncommon words to.
Well, I try to make them all a theme to each page of what kind of words you're looking for. Yeah.
Oh, now you even got the coloring books. Yeah,
I have a bunch of coloring books. That's a fairy. I think was that a fairy coloring book? I think.
Fairies and meditation.
Some of these I haven't looked at in a while because I made them a long time ago. I've actually got. I don't know if you can see this. This is a coloring book that I actually have, because I usually don't get author copies of the logbooks and the journals a lot. I'll do it with the children's books so I can read them. But Howie and His Owies is the name of this. And this one came about because I was in a college class, and one of our projects was you either had to make a puppet or you had to come up with a story. And so I came up with a story about a rabbit, and I made it not only rhyming but counting. So, for example, he's the first day in preschool, but he keeps getting owies. He's very clumsy, and he gets owies all the time. So it's like there once was a rabbit named Howie. He always had an owie on his ear, on his nose, on his elbow, or his toes. Wherever Howie goes, he gets an owie. So then you color, plus you count each owie. So, like, for instance, and this is going to be repeated, while sitting on the swing, swinging high and low, he jumped off too quickly and he hurt his little toe. He said, "Teacher, come and help me. See what I have done." And on his little toe, she put Band-Aid number 1. That's going to be repeated, but in a different rhyme till we get to number 2, number 3, until he gets to the end where he's just learned, okay, I don't want to go to preschool. And the teacher says, "Oh, you've just had a bad day," because he was so excited and being rough. But that was fun to do. So there's a lot of coloring.
Our daughter likes to color.
She likes to do this kind of coloring with a special pencil.
I have a Mandela one on there. Have you heard of Mandela coloring? I have one of those on there as well. Very tiny kind of coloring.
Yeah,
but
she's got one of those things with all those pencils, those colored pencils and stuff, and she'll sit down for hours because some of those adult style coloring things, they're very intricate,
Yeah.
Take some time.
I was trying to look on here to see which I have, like, seasonal coloring books. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, and I have a pug one. It's a pug coloring book because I had a pug and he passed away, and so I made a coloring book for him. Sea creatures. I mean, I have just coloring books on just about everything you can think of.
Do you know?
Books.
Do you know a
Yeah.
number of how many books you have out there? All of them total.
I think there's about 280. I think.
Wow.
Something around there, about 280 books, and about 30 of them are children's books. And the rest are just all these categories. And another important one, which I don't remember if I sent you. Oh, this is a journal. As you can see, some of the journals are styled, somebody's style. That cover might attract somebody. Yeah. But I actually have a log book that I use. As a matter of fact, I think I have it here. Let me have it sitting here. Maybe I don't. I thought I had it sitting here. Maybe I don't. But it's here it is. Okay. Need to remember, I know it looks backwards. This is a logbook on all your passwords. And I can't tell you how many times I go in here and say, what was that password again? So there's a few of that one's called Need to Remember.
I've got a whole book of passwords.
Yep, that's what I made 2 books with, remembering your password, because it drove me crazy, especially if you're on a system where you have to change your password often.
Right. So this next one I'm looking at is a caregiver logbook.
Yes.
That's not only for medical. That's a lot of families get pushed into being a caregiver and having to deal with it. And they're not trained to do it. So that's probably a really good book to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in here. What time medicine, what time to feed, what it covers, like the day, and make sure that you've covered everything in that day. And I've been in that position, as I told you before, caring for my mother. So yeah, that's where that idea kind of came up with.
Did most of your ideas just come from personal experience?
Some of them, yeah. Yeah. My sister is a flight attendant. I have a half sister.
Were you ever a flight attendant?
No, but I have a half sister that's a flight attendant over in Northern Ireland, and she actually bought that book. She goes, "I'm looking through your books, and I'm taking this one, and that's to record all your travels."
Sure.
And everywhere you got to be, and she wanted that one, so she got that one. But I try to think of different ideas that people might like. Yeah. Yep, there's a word search one.
Word search, yeah.
That's a word. Some people like word searches. That's to monitor your blood pressure. I also have one for monitoring your blood sugar and blood pressure. So, and like inside it will be little charts of how to keep up with this and how, just so, because I have high blood pressure. I'm also diabetic, and my doctor's like, oh, write down everything you ate, or write down what your blood sugar was. I want to know what your blood pressure's been lately. So I'm like, boom, there's the book for here. Here's the book. Look through it,
So there's you one for kids to use during the summer.
There's just different games in there.
To do in the car.
Something to do in the car in the summertime. There's mazes, word searches, tracing things, coloring, just little activity books in the car. This one is actually another educational one. It's a hexagon composition logbook. And in it actually is a hexagon. Again, I had to get from somewhere else to get in there for the interior that they can use for school if they're in a science class and they need that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what else you got. I'm going to kind of run through these.
Yeah, I couldn't even remember how many I sent you. Again, another composition book, just showing you how the covers are. That people like different covers. So I have all different kind of covers. That's a dog. Those first one was dogs at school.
Yeah.
And then this one is cats writing. But they're all composition books, and then some just scenery.
Yeah, I think that was about it. But The biggest
Yeah.
thing was I wanted, and now Santi had to step out. Santi does. We cruise a lot, and a little while back she looked at becoming an agent, really just to save a little money on our cruising.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did that, and now she's got people calling her and all that stuff. So she gets busy sometimes with her
I have
travel
a
agent.
cruise laws book too.
So she's having to jump online in there. They got a live thing she's having to participate on. So she stepped out.
Yeah.
But if anybody's interested in being a travel agent, she can hook you up. Yeah.
I actually thought about that a few years ago.
Yeah.
Thought about being a travel agent or a flight attendant when I was younger, and then I ended up working with children and kind of. When I was, have you ever heard of Opryland USA? Anybody ever heard of that?
Yeah.
The amusement park that used to be years ago in Nashville.
Yeah.
I used to work there from all through high school. I used to work at Opryland USA, and once in a while, and I was hospitality and ticketing and that kind of thing. But once in a while, they'd say, "Hey, we're going to have a concert. Would anybody like to be security and just kind of walk around with your walkie-talkie, make sure everything is cool?" And I got to do Tom Jones concert, and I got to do Rick Springfield, and then they did a television show called the Nashville Palace. And about everybody you could think of was on that. It ran for about 8 weeks, and then it didn't pick up after that. But I got to do that show with security for that show, and just be Google-eyed over all the country stars.
We do something similar here. Some friends of ours asked us one day, said, "Hey, y'all want to be ushers at a concert?" And we got casinos here, and they'll have these big name people come in, and they got us hooked up to. We'll go usher. Show people to their seat, show us their ticket and what seat they're in. And instead of them fumbling around trying to find it, we take them right to it, So, but then you get to stay in there and watch the concert for free. So we've done that a few times. Kind of the same thing. All right. So somebody's saying, Hero said the chat is slow. So I'm going to throw some questions at the chat. Miss PJ, you saw a book in there that you said you needed. I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Genealogy one.
Okay, that's right, the genealogy. So besides the genealogy, did you see anything else in there that would fit what you need? Maybe heroes. Out of what you saw, what do you like the best there, Heroes? He said he likes the color. I bet you he liked those coloring books.
I mean, like I said, I've got log books for mileage. For if you travel in the RV and you want to do a check of everything on your RV, plus put in where you went and what you did. I mean, you think of it, and I probably have a logbook on it.
I had a person that wasn't really in my inner circles, but was in my outer circles. And she tried her best to be a good person, but she just couldn't do it. She kept getting in trouble, and it was mainly drugs. And, she ended up doing a stint in prison. And anyhow, I remember one time when she got out, I put a package together to send to her, and some of it was, the adult coloring books. And she really liked those things, just trying to, I don't even know
I have
how
some
to
adult
explain
color.
it, but
I
in
have
her
some adult
situation,
coloring books.
She really liked having those coloring books,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I call them my relaxation or meditation coloring books, but they're adult coloring books.
And I guess that's kind of how she looked at it, as, take her mind off her troubles, I guess. All right. So Miss PJ said she really liked the journal and notes from Miss Grandma or from Grandma on top of the DNA. Now you said you do a lot of research. Did you do the DNA thing? I guess they got ancestry.com and 23andMe.
That's what I'm on. Yeah. I'm on Ancestry. I
saw
did
something in the news today about 23andMe, but it was a negative thing.
Yeah, bankrupt. They're going bankrupt.
Is that what it is?
They're going bankrupt, 23andMe, and they're going to have to sell it. So I hope that if they sell that, everybody's DNA is still privatized on there. You know what I mean? Right. I didn't go through 23andMe. I went through Ancestry.
And that's why I was asking. I didn't catch the whole story.
is.
I didn't really know what
Yeah.
it was. Something about if you use 23andMe, you need to know this kind of thing, which I've never done either one
Yeah.
of them. So,
They're filing. Yeah,
okay.
sadly
So now we
filing. But yeah, I did my DNA on. I was doing it for a while before DNA came up, and when you had the option to do your DNA, because I'm telling you, when you are searching through so many records, and for me, I'm over here, but I'm having to do. I have no searches over here. My family's from Northern Ireland. So all my
right.
searches start there. I am the first person that moved over here, and my children are first generation American on my side. My ex-husband, was American, but on my side, my entire family was over there. So my research had to start over there. And for Ireland, with fires going on and bombings and everything, some of the paperwork is gone, which is, always hard to find. But once the DNA came up, when I would find, okay, this looks like this could be my great great grandparents, when the DNA came up and it would match me to someone who that was their great great grandmother as well, it was
Yeah.
brilliant. And the one thing that I'm glad I did before my mother passed away was I asked her, would she do her DNA? Because the older the person you have to do DNA,
Yeah.
more matches are going to pop up. And so I was able to, to go through hers. And then I didn't have my father's DNA or anything, but they can separate the parents, even if you don't have the other parent's DNA. So whatever
Right.
is not popping up under her, I know came from him. So if Norway pops up in the DNA, what it's showing me, I know, well, that's not, she had nothing in her family was Norway, but my father did. Back, he had someone that was from Norway or something. And I would know it was his side. So the DNA I thought was brilliant. So I
My
was
family
happy.
came from England,
Yeah.
and the spelling got changed a few times. Over there in
Oh,
England,
yeah.
it was Hough, and then
Mm-hmm.
when it came over here, some of it still stayed Hough. Somewhere along the way, it became Hoff and Huff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's three different spellings. And I even saw a
Yeah.
document one time where the same person spelled their name all three ways on that document. One point they use
And it
Hoff.
happens.
It was crazy. But
That's why it's
we,
tough. Genealogy can be tough because of that.
yeah,
You're absolutely
yeah.
right. You have
But
to
I
look
also
closely
found,
at the
and
spellings.
I found it interesting that some of them came over here, yet they were buried in England. So I don't know if
Mhm.
surely they didn't ship the body back. So I'm assuming they came over here, stayed a while, and then went back to England
Mhm.
and ended up dying over there.
Possibly.
But yeah, ancestry stuff's very interesting to me, but I've never done the DNA. Maybe one day I will. Our daughter did it. We misunderstood her. She wanted us to do it, but what we thought was she wanted to do it. So for Christmas, we bought her the ancestry.com, and she did it, and it's pretty cool. Of course, we found out a lot of stuff there, but she actually wanted us to do it, but we misunderstood. So we bought her the thing, and she did it. But I'm not opposed to doing it one of these days.
I see Miss PJ said she's gone back to the 1400s. I've gone back that far too. And it's exciting, Miss PJ, to go back there, and find that. But she'll know as well. You have to be so careful, especially in other countries, because you have a man will name his son after himself, and then his son's son names after himself. But then you might have another family that did the same thing, especially in Ireland. The names just repeat over and over and over and over. And you have to really look at the details, which a lot of people miss. Is it the right time frame? Is it the right place? Or that could be a completely different person, and you're thinking it's your great, great,
Right.
great, great grandfather, and you're wrong, so you have to really be careful. But
I've got a
I bet you
friend
Miss
that was
PJ has
over
come
here.
across that.
My friend was over here yesterday, him and his wife, And he and I are actually related about, I don't know, 4 generations back. And we were trying to figure it out. We knew we were related, but we were trying to figure out how, and we just couldn't zero in on the person that made us related. And as it
Right.
turned out, there was a gentleman in my ancestry. His name was Benjamin. Last name was Huff. I can't remember what his original middle name was, but he didn't like it. So he had it changed to Franklin. So he was Benjamin Franklin Huff, because Benjamin Franklin was such a positive, strong
Yeah.
character back in those days.
Right.
So my friend knew him by his original middle name, but in all my paperwork, it had the new middle name. I mean, he went and legally changed his middle name to Franklin. So he had the other name and I had the Franklin name, and it took us forever to get that figured out and figure out what happened. But the guy he didn't like his middle name, so he went and had it changed.
Miss PJ says she has a great grandfather fought on both sides of the Civil War. That must have been interesting.
I had a relative whose father was in the Civil War.
Yeah.
And he was his name was Alcus Huff. He died when he was about 90, but his father had 3 different wives and had about 15 children. And Uncle Alcus and his brother was from the 3rd wife, and they were the babies. So, his father was way on up in age when he was born. But yeah, I had a person that I knew and talked to whose father was actually in the Civil War. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Well, one thing interesting is, like you were saying before about names and the spelling, I was tracing my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, last name is Mealy, Mealey. And so I was tracing that, going, where in the world? Because my cousin was doing the same thing. We were having a hard time going, where did Mealy come from? And finally, I found the relatives, and it was originally O'Malley, and they were from the South. Remember I said Northern Ireland is part of the UK,
Right.
and which 1922 is when the island kind of split. And then it became the Republic Island and Northern Ireland. Well, back in the time, my several great grandfather, I can't remember now what number he is, but he was William O'Malley, but he moved up into Belfast. And we have the Catholics, we have the Protestants and all that going on. So I believe that he changed his spelling because now he was living in Belfast and he didn't want to have any trouble. So O'Malley was a Catholic name and he changed it to Mealy. And so I found several papers that showed the transition of how he changed his name. So I'm like, that's where Mealy came from. So that was fascinating. I'm like, oh, and he was a police officer.
My mother's family changed their name. It wasn't quite that. It was, I remember when I was a kid, it was like 2 different distinct parts of the family. One side was really good people, almost uppity, and then the other group was the complete opposite, getting in trouble, troublemakers, and all that stuff.
There's a lot of that you find.
And one of the matriarchs of the family, before my time, she changed the spelling of their last name because she didn't want to be associated with that side that was getting in all the trouble and all that junk.
Yep.
Yeah, because I asked about it because I saw some documents where it was spelled a different way, and I asked about it. My mother said, "I don't know when they changed it." She said, "I think it was, Aunt so and so," and I remember that aunt. She was a great aunt to me. Much older and died when I was young, but I remember her, and I remember how she carried herself. And as I got older, I could kind of piece it together. Like, she didn't want to be associated with those others.
Well, over in America, there's so many census records, but in Ireland, the only census records that survived were 1901 and 1911.
Wow.
And I think 1851, there's some scragglers in there, but pretty much only 1901 and 1911. I had to use a lot to connect family members. But here's something that a lot of people probably don't want to do ancestry DNA for is people will pop up and
Oh,
you don't know how they got in your family.
yep.
And I actually was on one time and I was checking it. And this woman popped up, this young woman. And I went, oh my goodness, that is a very large DNA match. That's a direct match, a close family member. So I contacted her and we started talking. And it turned out that my uncle, who had been in the military, was over in Jamaica. And he did not even know that he got together with this young Jamaican girl and she had a child.
Yeah,
And the girl that I contacted, it was her father was that child.
wow.
And I know he had passed away and my uncle had passed away, but I knew if my uncle hadn't known that, he would have wanted to meet him.
Sure.
But we kept talking and talking, and I said, look, I have 5 uncles. They were all in the military, and my mother had 4 sisters. There was 10 of them. I says, and I can kind of get to the age of 2 of my uncles would have been too young to be the father, but the other 3 uncles let me do some searching, and I searched and searched and I didn't want to talk to, he had later on gotten married and he had 3 boys, and they would have not known they had an older brother. So I didn't want to kind of talk to them about it. So I had to kind of sneakily say, was he over in, which branch was he in again? Oh, he was in the Royal Navy. Okay. So I was able to get a ship record with him on it to Jamaica. At the time, this child would have been conceived. I'm like, bingo, because the other uncles were somewhere else.
It's amazing how these DNA detectives can piece things together now and find.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at it myself. I finally told those 3 cousins and they went, what? And I'm like, I got proof. I'm sending you proof. Ship records, where he was. And one of them goes, he used to talk about Jamaica all the time. And I said, yeah.
Sounds like he had fond memories of Jamaica.
He did. And he probably met her and then he was shipped out. She was very, very young. And they married her off to someone, and it could have been because she was pregnant and she didn't know how to reach him anyway. But I know my uncle, and if he hadn't known that, he would have went back and got her, But the funny thing is, when we were trying to figure it out, on her deathbed, she said, now this would have been her granddaughter that I connected with. She said to her name was Michelle. She said, Michelle, I wonder how my friend Sam is. Well, that was my uncle's name. And she goes, she'd never mentioned a Sam in her life. So she was still thinking about him,
She was, yeah.
Even though she went on and got married and got divorced and everything. And she would not tell him. He was raised by a stepfather, but he said, I'm too light skinned for this family. Do I have a different father? And she would never tell him. So he passed away never knowing the truth. Wow. So his daughter wanted to find out just for her peace of mind. And that DNA did that. So she was my mother's great niece.
Wow.
But the good news is that my 3 cousins, yeah. The good news is my 3 cousins were in England, live in England. And this young lady lived in England, and I connected them and they've met up. And this is their niece. So it turned out a really good story.
All right. Well, I'm going to shut this thing down. We've been on here for a little more than an hour. Thank you so much for sharing about your books. And,
thank you.
Tell everybody out there, look, y'all see she's got a wide array of stuff. I'm sure she's got something for everybody. So y'all go check out Karen's books.
Thank you for having me on as usual. It's so sweet of you. And all you people in the chat that I've seen in other chats, now you know what I look like. So it's nice to say hi.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. That was Miss Karen and her books. She's got a ton of stuff out there. Literally, if you look at her stuff, there's something in there for everybody. So, and hey, Christmas will be here before you know it. You might as well go ahead and start ordering some books and stuff for your nieces and nephews and grandkids. And, you know, if your husband can't remember anything, get him a book to write stuff down in. Santi might get me one. She says I forget a lot. I don't remember forgetting anything myself. Hey, we had a few of y'all in there. I know the chat didn't get going. We were talking a lot. So I'm going to assume the chat wasn't going on because y'all were listening to what we were saying and really getting into Miss Karen's books. So I appreciate everybody being here. And the bird feeder will be on in the morning from 7 to 9. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a better day today. It was kind of raining this morning. So hopefully we'll have a better day in the morning. So till tomorrow, we'll see y'all later.